So welcome everybody who's listening, and welcome to the people who are listening back to this, as this will be posted to YouTube as well. My name is David. As many of you know, I'm all over these calls. I feel like I'm doing millions of them nowadays. It started off with once every 2 weeks, I think. Now there's lots of them. Not going to talk too much about me today. Not anything at all, actually. We're going to go into Claude. So Claude, first of all, for the people who are listening now and the people who are listening back, who are you? What do you do?
I work in the developer success team at Trilitech. So I'm a developer advocate. I've been doing that for almost 4 years already in the Tezos ecosystem. So first I was working as a DevRel for the Takilo team. So Takilo is a library that is used in the Tezos ecosystem to build applications. And I joined Trilitech in February. And since then, I've been working in the developer success team.
Amazing. So, first of all, you've been in the ecosystem for 4 years, which I think you can be counted as an OG at this point. First of all, what brought you to Tezos 4 years ago? What happened, and why are you in love with Tezos and not some other chain?
Yeah, so I think like a lot of blockchain developers, I started with Ethereum. And I learned how to make smart contracts and applications on Ethereum for a while, but I was not very happy about Solidity, and also the community was not very supportive. So when I had a problem with my code on Ethereum, it was really hard to find someone to help me and to answer questions. And yeah, so it was 4 years ago in December 2019. So a few months before, I started to get interested in functional programming. And I was researching that on the internet, and I was just thinking, hey, let's see if there's a blockchain that uses a functional language. And of course, when you go on Google and you type functional language blockchain, like one of the first results is Tezos. So I got interested in it, and it was really the beginning of the ecosystem. So there were a lot of applications built, a lot of documentation. That's also a period where, so the beginning of 2020 was the beginning of the pandemic, and I lost the job I was doing at that time. So I had a lot of free time, and so I just learned about Tezos. I built some small applications, and I was playing with the tools that were available at that time, and there were not a lot of tools. And yeah, and that's it. Yeah, after 6 months of playing around and posting on Twitter and on Medium about what I was building and how I was doing it to help other developers, I was contacted by the Takilo team, and I joined them.
That's amazing. So for us, very much non-technical people who, me, before I came to Trilitech, thought I was a semi-capable, bad developer. So explain, first of all, what is functional programming?
So functional programming is a kind of programming. So in general, there are two big kinds of programming. Okay, it's imperative programming and functional programming. So languages, so for example, JavaScript in general is not functional. Functional programming, it's more that you focus on the shape of the data that you manipulate more than the data itself. So you can do a lot of things that increase the safety of the code that you write. So for example, one of the features that I love the most in functional programming is pattern matching. So pattern matching is the kind of if condition, but you can evaluate a lot of different cases according to the shape of the value that you want to evaluate. So it's a very powerful pattern, and you can do a lot of things with it, and also make sure that the code that you write is safer than if you would just use conditions. So it's a different pattern, and it's not very common. A lot of people write imperative languages, but I can see nowadays that it's becoming more and more widespread. So for example, Rust has a lot of functional patterns that you can use. So there are some new languages that come and that have some functional programming patterns. So it's something that people recognize as safer, and they integrate it in their languages.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense to me now, and I think I can explain it to a 5-year-old. Probably not a 10-year-old, but a 5-year-old maybe. So you mentioned you've been in the ecosystem for 4 years, and being in here for so long, how have you seen, like you mentioned that you played around with tooling, but there wasn't much tools out there for you to play around with. How has that evolved over the past 4 years that you've been within the ecosystem?
Yeah, so the tooling evolved a lot. Now we have some very great tools available to build applications. So just for reference, when I joined 4 years ago, the only wallet that we had was something called Tezbridge. So other OGs, like listening to to this conversation, they probably remember it. It was a kind of Kukai, but the interface was like really bad. So, but it was the same principle where you had to connect your wallet on a different tab, and then you had to switch between tabs to sign operations. But yeah, the interface was very basic, and you could see all the bytes of the operations. I mean, that was not a very user-friendly wallet. I think also it was just the beginning of Beacon. So Beacon is a library that facilitates the connection between the application and the wallet. So it was the very beginning, and I also tested Beacon at the very beginning. So it was really interesting. Sorry. And yeah, that's pretty much it. They were not like the wallets. It was just the beginning of some wallets. We started to talk about wallets, but also the other applications. There was no NFT marketplace, DeFi. I don't think there was anything major at that time. So yeah, there were. I think it was a great time to join Tezos because there were a lot of things that needed to be built, to be tested, and to be documented. So I think I joined at the right time. And yeah, so there were a lot of things to do, and still now there's still a lot of things to do on Tezos.
Yeah, you definitely joined at the right time. I can imagine you have the fingers in a lot of different pies when it comes to developer experience on Tezos. Apart from tooling and sort of developer experience on Tezos, it's interesting because I don't speak to a lot of people that have been here for so long. I'm curious about how has sort of Tezos evolved overall, if we're outside of developer success or developer experience, how has Tezos evolved overall for the past 4 years?
Well, I think it's evolving in the right direction. So there are a lot of things that we have now that are better for mass adoption. So, for example, everything that's related to NFTs. I think that when I joined Tezos, there was no FA2 standard, so there were no NFTs. Now we can see that we have big marketplaces for NFTs on Tezos. So that brought a lot of artists, a lot of people who use Tezos on a daily basis. So that's definitely something that evolved in the right direction. I think also everything about DeFi is pretty good. So at the beginning, there was no protocol for DeFi, and now we have UVES, we have plenty. We have a lot of different platforms for DeFi. So that's definitely something good. And also the tooling. So at the moment, as a developer, it's easier to create an application on Tezos. So now we have Takedo, Beacon. There are different wallets. So as a user, you can choose the wallet that you prefer. So there are a lot of different parts like that in the ecosystem that were not present at the beginning, and that came later. And now the experience on Tezos is a lot better than it was 4 years ago.
Thank you, Claude. So we've talked about the past. Let's jump into the present. What does a normal day for you look like at Trilitech? What are you working on specifically day to day?
As part of the developer success team, I work with developer related subjects. So these past few months, I've been mostly focused on creating content for developers. So making videos, writing tutorials. So all that kind of content that explains different tools on Tezos and how to use them. So for example, I made videos about how to write a sampling contract, how to use Takedo. So my main focus at the moment is creating content. But I also help other teams that want to build on Tezos. So a lot of people have questions about how to build, what kind of tool to choose. So I'm also involved in that kind of conversations where I help other teams choose the best tools and so help them build on Tezos. I've been also involved in the new documentation that we have now at docs.tezos.com. So mainly making sure that the information is correct because of my experience with Tezos. So proofreading. I didn't write much this time on the documentation, but I did a lot of proofreading and I checked that everything was correct. So that's the kind of things that we do in the developer success team.
So the developer success team has grown quite a lot, and I'm sort of scattering back to the present and the future. So in total, with your time at Trilitech, what's been the biggest absolute challenge that you're like, I hate this is impossible to solve? And what's been the best thing? Because you have 4 years in. I feel like I have to delve deeper into it.
Well, that's a good question. I think the biggest challenge from a developer perspective is being non-EVM. So EVM is the technology used by Ethereum. So it was a choice from the beginning to create a safer blockchain. But a lot of developers are used to EVM tools that they use Ethereum world. So a lot of them know Solidity, a lot of them use tools like Hat or Third Web, that kind of tooling. So it's difficult to onboard those people because they expect that things are going to work the same way, but they don't. And for them it's a blocker, but for us it's a pride. The things on Tezos don't work like on Ethereum because they work better. They are designed to be safer and to create a better blockchain. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges, to explain to these people why we do it that way on Tezos, but also why it is better to do it that way. Regarding the best thing about my work, I think it's great. One of the things I like the most at Trilitech is that I'm in touch with different teams. So, for example, you were saying that you feel that you know less about developing since you joined. But when I go to the third floor and I'm with the core devs, I feel like a monkey, at the circus. Those guys are so intelligent and have so many skills. And it's really great to be with these people and to talk with them. Like, for example, they helped me a lot when I was writing a tutorial about rollups. And so they were very helpful about that to help me understand how the technology works. At the moment, I'm also talking with a lot of people about Etherlink. So it's great to be in touch with these people and so help them understand how we can create a better developer experience for Etherlink. And at the same time, they teach me how it works and what you can do and also the challenges that they have. So I can help developers who want to join and build on Etherlink. So I think all those teams working together at Trilitech is really great to expand my knowledge of the ecosystem and help the developers who want to come to Tezos better.
I definitely agree with you. The best thing is having all of these very intelligent people around. Although I was joking about it in the beginning that I feel like I know less or like I'm dumb at programming. Probably learned a lot more in the past 5-6 months than I have about programming ever. I just realized how little I knew. And it's as you say, like it's really great. Even I, Claude, come to you sometimes and like, hey Claude, what is this? Yeah. And you sigh because like, oh, David is back.
Yeah, you're always welcome to come. I can teach you.
That's perfect. So when you were talking about the biggest challenge, you were talking about that the EVM compatibility, like that there is no EVM compatibility currently, and that's been an issue. But then in the best part, you also brought up Etherlink, which sort of solves that. How do you think Etherlink will impact sort of the developer experience on Tezos?
I'm not really sure about that. So I've been trying to think about what developers, the developers who are going to build on Etherlink are, of course, Ethereum developers. So I think some of them are going to be interested in having some kind of application that's also going to run on the L1 on Tezos. So they will have to learn the tooling and build on Tezos. But I don't know exactly about that. I think a lot of them are just going to be interested to deploy the application on another EVM chain, which is also very good. So I don't know exactly how it's going to impact it, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be a good impact. I cannot imagine anything bad about using Etherlink. That's only going to be a good thing for Tezos.
Yeah, definitely. It's also a very hard question to answer because the bridge from Etherlink to Tezos, it's obviously built on Tezos, but it's still very hard to bridge from a developer point of view, I would imagine. So one other question I had was, which now we've talked about the past, then we talked about the present, then we talked about the past again, just because I am incohesive as a host. So let's go to the future now and let's stay there. So what do you see as sort of the biggest opportunities for what you do in 2024 at Trilitech in Tezos, but also what the wider dev success team is working on?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would like to focus on in 2024 is the developer experience on Tezos. So there's still some improvements that can be done on that part. So some of my colleagues are working on parts of the developer experience. So, for example, providing a better documentation. But there are also different things that I would like to focus on, like, for example, tooling, being sure that the developers who join Tezos ecosystem have the right tools to build the application that they want. There are still some things that are a little bit harder to use on Tezos compared to the other blockchains. So I think I really would like to focus on developer experience and make sure that developers first have a similar experience when they come from, for example, from Ethereum. And when I mean similar experience, it doesn't mean like the same experience. It means that the experience should be as simple as the one they have on Ethereum. Like the idea is that when you're a developer and you want to create an application on Tezos, you shouldn't spend days, figuring out how to use a smart contract language, how to compile the code, how to test it. I mean, that's something that should be very easy, so you can focus on the business logic of your application and just on that, not really on the tooling. So I think there are still improvements that we can do on that. So yeah, in the future, that's something I would like to focus on. And also I would like to continue providing tutorials and videos to explain how to do things, maybe more in-depth content. I feel that at the moment there's a lot of content on Tezos to get you started. But once you want to build a more complex application, there's not much. So that's also why, for example, I wrote tutorials about sapling or that kind of things. So it would be nice to have more content for intermediate to advanced developers who want to further their knowledge of the Tezos ecosystem.
Thank you, Claude. You spoke about tooling. It's something you're excited for to keep on building in 2024. And just thinking that maybe there's some developers in here and maybe there are some developers listening back to this later when it's posted to YouTube. Can you share what specific tooling you want to work on, that you are going to work on, and that people should expect next year?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to work directly on some tooling. I mean, I would be very happy to, but I don't think that's my job. But I would be very happy to help and to provide some feedback about it. Like, for example, I've been involved in the past week with Taqueria. So I would like, Taqueria is a great tool, but I think it's possible to improve it and to provide a better better developer experience with it. So in order to make it easier to use, faster to install and get people ready to write code as fast as possible. So I think at the moment on Tezos, we are missing that kind of tool like they have on Ethereum, something like Hard Hat or even Foundry or that kind of tool that you can use from A to Z to build your smart contracts, your application, to test it, to do a lot of things. That's in one single tool. And I think that would be something amazing to have on Tezos.
Thank you. I just have one last question for you, which I also asked Adebola, who I can see is in here. So from an in the dev success team's point of view, so your own point of view, your own ideal utopia developer experience on Tezos, what would that look like for a developer? What tools do they have at their disposal? How easy it is to learn new things, etc., etc. So give me a rundown. I want Claude to become a kid again and sort of become the most creative being you can be and answer this question.
So I think the best developer experience is, first of all, to focus on interfaces. So to have like web interfaces. So if you have to download a tool, you wouldn't use the command line. So you don't want to type anything, like you just want to have a button that says download. You download it. It installs everything that you need to write smart contracts, to deploy an application, even something very basic like a counter application with the smart contract behind, and you just like click on the button that says deploy example app or whatever, and then you have like that, like in 1 minute you have a project that's running. There's a smart contract in the backend. There's an interface with a +1 and -1 button that you can click that's going to update the state of the smart contract. So I think that kind of experience is great, because I don't know how the other developers are, but when I want to choose a new tool to work with, I download it and I play with it like 2 minutes to see what it does. And if I'm not happy during these 2 minutes, then I choose something else. And I think that's the kind of experience we should provide on Tezos, that in a very short amount of time, we should amaze the developers. We should give them that feeling that, wow, that tool is really great. I want to use it. I want to learn more about it. At the moment, I don't think we have that experience on Tezos. There's a lot of downloading here and there of stuff. There's not like a one-click experience. And my ideal tool would be that download button. It downloads. You have it. You write, create new Tezos project, and bam, you have that counter application. You can play with it. There's a nice interface with a gradient background or like something fancy, and you're like, okay, like that works fast, that works well. So I want to know more about it. I think it's crucial to have that first impression in a very short time.
I'm looking forward to see you build that. That's possible. That's possible. Claude, you can do that.
Yeah, that would be possible, of course.
All right, Claude, I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else you want to say to the people who are listening back to this, or the few people that are in the audience?
I mean, I'm very excited to see what's going to happen in 2024. So, the end of the year is always, for me, it's a time to reflect on what happened in 2023 and see what I can change in 2024 and make better. I think that's also something now that we're going to do as a team in the developer success. And see what's going to happen in 2024 and see how we can make it better for us, but also for all the developers that are already on Tezos and that are going to join the ecosystem.
Amazing. Thank you, Claude. Thanks to everybody who's listened, and thanks to the people who are listening back to this on YouTube as well. This has been fun. Claude and the other team, I plan to do sort of intro calls with all of them for these community calls, so people can get to learn more about them, who they are, what they are excited about. And then from there, they will sort of take the lead on these and bring them more closer to actual developer success without my non-technical chatter that I do as a community manager.
Perfect.
So thanks to the people who are listening, and thanks to the people listening back. And thank you, Claude, for coming.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.